All right, everyone, welcome back to the land of Chem. I am your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 27, the function of the pyramid body. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the function of the mass of stones that surround these reaction chambers. And this has been one of the most popular questions proposed in the comment section here on the Land of Chem YouTube channel. What was the function of the body of the pyramids, and why is there such a mass of stones surrounding the internal components of these structures? Well, that question has two answers. There are two major categories of functions for the body of the pyramid itself. The first being structural functions, the second being operational functions. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing those structural functions first. Just some quick housekeeping. If you like this material and you're enjoying the videos, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube. Click that little notification bell so that you get noticed whenever these videos premiere. Like the video, leave a comment. Either way, it really helps to get this stuff out into the algorithm and reach more people. If you want to follow me on Instagram, at the Land of Chem on Instagram. My website is thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book. Thank you all so much for your continued support. I think that is it for the intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am coming in hot today. So here we go with tonight's episode, the function of the pyramid body. So the first function of the massive body of stones that surrounds the internal reaction chambers of the Egyptian pyramids is to ensure the stability and longevity of the system. So let's start by discussing stability. So with the exception of the step pyramid of Saqqara and the central pyramid of Giza, the internal reaction chamber systems of the Egyptian pyramids are not standalone structures. There were a multitude of different forces at work on these chamber systems while the system was in operation. And if you didn't have a massive body of stones encasing those reaction chambers, the entire system would completely fall to pieces while it was in operations. You have to have that stone to encase the reaction chamber system. So that is the first function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids, is to ensure the stability of your reaction chamber system while it is in operation. The second function is to ensure the longevity of those reaction chambers. So let's discuss the Pyramid of Winis, for example. So nowadays, if we build something out of stone and it lasts for 10 years, we're doing pretty damn good. However, that was not the intention of the Egyptian pyramids, nor was that the intention of their builders. They wanted to ensure that these structures lasted for thousands and thousands of years, and that is exactly what they have accomplished. So the second part of the first function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids is to protect your internal reaction chamber systems and ensure that they last for a very long time. And you can see here that the Pyramid of Winis once had a massive pyramid over the reaction chamber systems, but this is what we have left today. Over time, due to natural and man-made forces, this pyramid has been completely destroyed. However, due to the protective nature of the body of the pyramid itself, the internal reaction chamber system is still intact. You can still go inside of that today, and that is 100% due to the massive body of stones that protected the structure and ensured its longevity. So again, that first function of the Egyptian pyramids is to ensure the stability and longevity of the reaction chamber systems. The second function is to prevent environmental contamination, and we're going to start with a discussion about the step pyramid of Saqqara, because this pyramid is the genesis of pyramid building in Egypt, and the builders of these structures learned all of the lessons that they would implement in the subsequent pyramids from their experience with the step pyramid of Saqqara. All right, so you can see here the massive body of stone that covers up the internal reaction chamber of the step pyramid of Saqqara. So why did they build this massive body of stones above the reaction chamber system? Well, the second function of this body of stone is to prevent environmental contamination. So we have discussed that the step pyramid of Saqqara is designed to produce methane gas, and you do not want that methane gas escaping out into the atmosphere. We are experiencing a very similar issue in today's world, where methane gas is creating quote unquote global warming, etc., etc. So that certainly would have been a concern to these ancient chemists as well as it is to us today. So you can see here on the left, this is a diagram that shows the evolution of the step pyramid of Saqqara. And like I said before, this is the genesis of the building of the massive body of pyramids that surround these reaction chamber systems. They learned all of the lessons from the step pyramid. So at some point during the operation of the step pyramid, it was originally just encased in this single level mastaba platform. But I would propose that at some point during the operation of this structure, they realized that gas was escaping from inside of this reaction chamber and escaping out into the atmosphere. There was pressure inside of this reaction chamber system. Yes, there was pressure involved in the operation of the step pyramid as well, and we're going to be discussing that in a few moments. However, in regard to the operation of the step pyramid, the gas that builds up at the top of this reaction chamber as that methane accumulates in the collection chamber, it is actually going to press. The pressure from the gas is actually what forces the decomposed substrate material out of your primary reaction chamber through the displacement shaft. So there was pressure inside of the structure, and I propose again that the methane gas was eventually escaping out of this single level mastaba platform. So they realized that they had to encase the reaction chamber systems in a bigger pyramid structure to ensure that there was no environmental contamination. And you can see here, this blue pyramid was the first addition on top of this single level mastaba platform. And I again propose that at some point, the pressure inside of this system had built up too high. There was still gas escaping outside of this structure. You can see here that this blue pyramid was not centered over the reaction chamber system. So I propose that there was most likely gas escaping out from this side due to the pressure inside of the system. So again, to prevent that environmental contamination, they built a much larger pyramid that was centered over the reaction chamber system. And this, like I mentioned before, is the genesis of pyramid building in Egypt. And the builders of these structures would apply the knowledge that they gained through this process to the construction protocol for the rest of the Egyptian pyramids, and they inevitably decided that building a massive pyramid body on top of these reaction chamber systems was the best way to ensure all of these functions: stability, longevity, prevention of environmental contamination, and also the third factor, which is going to be maintaining pressure. So let's continue our discussion about preventing environmental contamination in regard to the Central Pyramid of Giza. So in the previous episode, we discussed how the Central Pyramid was utilized to produce hydrochloric acid. And the hydrogen chloride gas that was being created here in your primary reaction chamber, you certainly do not want that gas escaping out into the atmosphere. Well, you may be saying, oh, well, they didn't need this massive body of stone on top of that reaction chamber system. They could have built a much smaller structure. Well, you can see with the evolution of the step pyramid, they already learned that building a tiny pyramid on top of these structures was not sufficient to accomplish all of those functions. They went with a much larger pyramid body to absolutely ensure that zero of that hydrogen chloride gas could escape out into the atmosphere. Now, a more poignant question you should be asking yourself is not why there is a massive body of stones surrounding these structures, but why are they shaped like pyramids? And another quick discussion regarding the Central Pyramid of Giza is the utilization of both bedrock and limestone masonry in the construction of these chambers. And you can see here that a portion of the Central Pyramid of Giza was actually excavated directly from the bedrock. And you can see here all of these areas with hash marks have been excavated from the bedrock, and all of the areas that are absent from hash marks, that is actually man-made limestone masonry. And this is also to ensure the stability and longevity of the reaction chamber systems. Excavating it directly from the bedrock will ensure that it lasts much longer than the chamber systems that were built from limestone. So that is again one of the function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids: stability, longevity, and that prevention of environmental contamination. And you can see here in this picture from inside of the primary reaction chamber of the Central Pyramid that the lower section of this primary reaction chamber is excavated directly from the bedrock, and the ceiling of the chamber is limestone masonry blocks. And just a quick note about the casing stones of the Egyptian pyramids. We're going to be discussing this later. I just wanted to point out the red granite casing stones that are on the lower two courses of the exterior casing stones of the central pyramid. The central pyramid had 2 courses of red granite. The third pyramid had 12 courses of red granite. And we're going to be discussing the function of this red granite in an upcoming video. I just wanted to point that out because it is critical to the operation of this structure. All right, the third function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids is containing pressure. So you can see that all of these functions are applicable to every single Egyptian pyramid. We also discussed the containing pressure factor in regard to the step pyramid, and it certainly applies to all the pyramids that came after. So let's talk about, of course, the Red Pyramid of Dahshur, and we have thoroughly discussed the significant amount of pressure that was being created inside of these reaction chamber systems. And as I mentioned before, if you didn't have a massive body of stones encasing that reaction chamber system, the entire system would completely fall apart if it were not protected by the body of stones surrounding the chambers. And you can see here, these are the internal reaction chambers. And this is the massive body of stone that surrounds these chambers. These chambers are not standalone systems. You have to have a huge body of stone protecting your reaction chamber systems to ensure that it stays together while it's in operation. You can also take, for example, the function of preventing environmental contamination in regard to the Red Pyramid. You certainly don't want any ammonia gas escaping out of your final synthesis chamber and getting out into the atmosphere. So again, building this massive body of pyramid stones around the reaction chamber systems accomplishes all 3 of those tasks. And this is just a quick picture showing that massive body of stone surrounding the Red Pyramid of Dahshur. Again, the most poignant question is, why are these things shaped like pyramids? And we'll be getting to that in a later video. And this is a quick picture showing the man-made replica capstone of the Red Pyramid of Dahshur, and in the distance, the magnificent bent pyramid, which brings us to the next factor in the function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids, which is regulation of temperature. So stone has remarkable thermoregulatory properties. Some stone will cool very quickly once it's been heated. Other types of stone will remain hot once you heat them, and those are very, very important when understanding the function of the Egyptian pyramids, and we'll get to the different types of geology at a later point. But I just wanted to discuss this thermoregulatory properties of the stone that were utilized in the body of the Egyptian pyramids. So here, let's discuss the function of the bent pyramid of Dahshur. And this structure was designed to produce ammonium bicarbonate. And in this particular reaction, you do not want excessive amounts of heat inside of your reaction chambers. So you can see here that the upper system is encased in the limestone masonry of the body of the pyramid itself, and the lower chamber system was excavated directly from the bedrock. And this is to create a temperature differential between these 2 chambers. You want these lower chambers to be cooler than your upper chamber system. That is exactly why the lower chamber system was excavated from the bedrock and the upper chamber system is encased in the limestone body of the pyramid. There's a temperature differential between these 2 chambers, and the chambers and the stones surrounding them assist in the dissipation of heat away from the reaction through the stone into the body of the pyramid itself. And you can very clearly see also with the internal reaction chambers of the bent pyramid that these are not standalone chambers either. Again, the stability and longevity of the reaction chamber system, the prevention of environmental contamination, containing pressure, all 3 of those factors are applicable for the bent pyramid, as well as the regulation of temperature. And we're going to be discussing that again specifically from the opposite spectrum. This reaction chamber system you want to keep as cool as possible. There's also some other reaction chamber systems in the Egyptian pyramids that are very, very exothermic, and we'll discuss how the stones of the body affect that reaction chamber system here in just a moment. And this is just an awesome picture showing the massive body of stones of the bent pyramid of Dahshur and the absolutely amazing remaining casing stones that are still on the outside. It is completely mind-blowing to see the perfection of this casing stones in person. And this is one of my favorite pictures from my 2021 research expedition, looking up towards the peak of the bent pyramid of Dahshur. And here's just a couple other pictures of the casing stones on the outside of the bent pyramid. And here are a few pictures that show a continuous vein of salt deposit that moves through several different blocks in the body of the bent pyramid. And there's a very specific reason why this is a case. I'll insert a video here now that shows this on site. I won't explain exactly why they did this, but it was an operational function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are looking here at a series of stones on the north side of the bent pyramid, and we'll start here. So you see this crack is actually a natural deposit of halite inside of the stone, and this is one stone. This is a separate stone here. This is another separate stone here. Going around, this is a completely different block. And moving here to this block, you can see that deposit continues. So now this is an indication that these stones were excavated from a quarry in this series and then placed here back exactly in the same place that they were found in the natural location from which they were excavated from the quarry. I won't say why I think they did that, but pretty interesting to note that they tried to replicate the geology of the quarry from which these stones were excavated. All right, and here's a great diagram of the internal components of the bent pyramid of Dashur. And I just wanted to point this out because there is a very ingenious utilization of a mixture of both bedrock and limestone in the construction of the bent pyramid. And you can see here that the connecting tunnel that leads from your primary reaction system into your lower separation chamber system is actually made of a combination of bedrock and limestone. It is absolutely genius construction methodology. And you can see here that one portion of this connecting tunnel is made from limestone masonry blocks. And as you move through the tunnel, it goes into a section that was excavated from the bedrock. And as you get to the other end of the tunnel, it returns back to limestone masonry. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so now we have arrived at the Great Pyramid of Giza. And I'm going to very quickly explain how this pyramid demonstrates all four functions that we have discussed thus far in regard to the function of the body of the stones of the Egyptian pyramids. So first, stability. As I mentioned before, these internal reaction chamber systems are not standalone structures. You have to have a massive body of stone surrounding all of these chambers in order for the system to hold together while it's in operation. Longevity. They wanted to make sure that this pyramid lasted forever, and it most certainly will do that. It is still here today, and despite all of the man-made efforts to tear down these structures, there is absolutely nothing that will remove them from the earth. So they will be here forever. Again, that secondary function, the longevity of the pyramid itself. The second function, preventing environmental contamination. We have discussed that the Great Pyramid of Giza was designed to produce sulfuric acid, and the sulfur oxides that were being produced inside of the king's chamber, or this sulfur furnace rather, you certainly do not want those gases escaping out into the atmosphere. So you have the massive body of stones surrounding this reaction chamber system. You may be saying, well, what about the air shafts that lead to the outside of the structure? These air shafts were actually only one-way air shafts that were designed to bring air into the structure and not let it out of the structure. And I can discuss that in a later video. So the next thing is going to be containing the pressure. There is a significant amount of pressure involved in the operation of the sulfur furnace. You certainly do not want the entire system to completely explode while your reaction is underway. So also in regard to the Great Pyramid of Giza, you can see that the massive body of stones surrounding these chambers are containing the pressure inside of that system. So the final factor that we're going to discuss today is the regulation of temperature. So the reactions that were occurring inside of your sulfur furnace and inside of your contact process chamber are incredibly exothermic. And limestone can only be heated to a certain temperature before it will begin to degrade. So you want to have somewhere for that heat to dissipate. And that is exactly the function of the body of stones surrounding these chambers, is to allow the heat from this reaction to dissipate into the body of the stones, protecting the internal reaction chamber systems. Again, ensuring the longevity of this system was critical to its operation. So you'll see that the evolution of the design of the step pyramid and the lessons that were learned in the progression. So again, we're going to ensure the stability of the reaction chamber systems by building this large body of stone around it to make sure that everything holds together while it's in operation. We're going to build these large pyramids to ensure that they last for as long as possible. We're going to build the massive body of stones to prevent any environmental contamination from occurring. There were somewhat toxic chemicals being produced inside of these structures, and you do not want that escaping out into the atmosphere. The most effective way to prevent that from occurring is to encase it in a massive body of stones. Also, containing the pressure, you see that applied here in the function of the Great Pyramid, as well as regulation of temperature. So those, ladies and gentlemen, are the 4 structural functions of the massive body of stones that surround the internal reaction chamber systems of the Egyptian pyramids. However, that is not the most significant function of all of this stone, nor does that explain why these structures are shaped like pyramids. So I'm going to insert a little video from an experiment that we did on site in Giza that is going to give you a bit of a teaser for the function of the body of these structures.
Okay, again, we have the device that was built by our friend John D. Riley, the one that produces an electromagnetic charge or field, and it's now on, as you can hear it. And you can see that there are no charges coming out of it because this is plastic over here.
And just a note about the function of the machine. So this transforms alternating current into direct current, which produces, like Yusuf said, an electromagnetic field around the machine. And when you're standing close to this, or put your hand in proximity of the surface, you can feel that electromagnetic field here very, very easily. And it'll continue to build the longer we keep this machine on. And for any of you that are interested, this is called the LifeStream Field Generator, and you can go to zeropointresearch.com. Again, Yusuf and I don't have any affiliation with the machine, but we are going to use this to demonstrate some of the properties of the geology that can be found in the constructions in Egypt. So we're going to be taking a look at several different types of stone today. We have samples of limestone, we have samples of black basalt, we have samples of red granite, and we have samples of white calcite. And we're just going to make a couple of quick videos, again, demonstrating the properties of these stones in proximity to this electromagnetic energy field. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with our good friend Yusuf Awian at the Kemet shop today. Again, we're demonstrating the properties of some of the geology utilized in the construction of the Egyptian pyramids in proximity to the electromagnetic field being produced by this machine. And this is just a quick video to demonstrate the properties of the limestone. Again, you can see and hear the discharge. And the reason this is occurring is because limestone does not provide any electromagnetic impedance. The electromagnetic energy is flowing directly through the limestone and producing a discharge into the copper wire. But I will say, remember that all of the Egyptian pyramids are anchored to the bedrock. They utilize the earth as a portion of these structures, and these structures were made to be indistinguishable from the bedrock itself. You can see here that the northeastern corner of the Great Pyramid is tied directly into the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, and this was done so very, very intentionally because the first operational function of the body of the Egyptian pyramids is And just a quick reminder that limited first edition print copies of the Land of Chem book are now available at www.thelandofchem.com. So if you want to help support the channel, just go to the website. You can pick up a copy of the book, grab yourself a t-shirt. Either way, all the orders mean the world to me. So thank you all so much in advance. All right, everyone, that is it for tonight's video. This was episode 27, the function of the pyramid body. I really hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. We are beginning to discuss some of the most critical details regarding my theory, and we are rapidly approaching an explanation of the most revolutionary discovery that I have produced regarding my research about the function of the Egyptian pyramids. So just stay tuned. If you liked tonight's episode, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube and leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of tonight's episode. If you'd like to pick up a copy of the book, my website, www.thelandofchem.com. Follow me on Instagram @thelandofchem. I think that is it for tonight's episode, so I will see you next time.